Welcome to Brandon Hall Group's Excellence at Work podcast. You will hear from industry leaders covering innovative, cutting-edge business, learning, and HR topics that weave current market research and technology into each episode. Our Excellence at Work podcast is hosted by Brandon Hall Group's Chief Operating Officer and Principal HCM Analyst, Rachel Cook.
Hello, and welcome to Brandon Hall Group's Excellence at Work podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And I'd like to warmly welcome our guest speaker, Vivek Ravichandran. He is the head of talent of North America from TCS. And we're excited to be chatting with him today about some of their initiatives around all the great work that they're doing, and particularly around data and analytics for workforce planning. And a little bit about Vivek. He aspires to bring about technology information in enterprises and drive a culture of strong analytics. He is responsible not just for enabling upskilling, cross-skilling to drive the technology and lead growth and transformation of TCS, but also deploying various strategic interventions to linking learning with appropriate career growth and workforce transformation. He will also be speaking at our upcoming conference in January at Brandon Hall Group's HCM Excellence Conference. So we're excited to further share his expertise and best practices. They won in 2022 19 Brandon Hall Group Excellence Awards, and in 2021 29 Excellence Awards, and in 2020 14 Brandon Hall Group Excellence Awards. So that's quite astounding. And again, they were all different and unique. So that's also, I don't think any of them were the same that they entered in, which is not, it's okay to do that too. But, having a variety of that many awards, and especially coming out of the pandemic, that's remarkable. Congratulations there.
Thanks, Rachel. I think we have an amazing team across the globe. So I think a lot of credit goes to them for putting this together along with our CLO, Mr. Jana.
Absolutely. And again, kudos to the team at Tata Consultancy Services. Congratulations. And so, let's kind of dive into our topic today around data and analytics. I know that that's critical for, every department, every business. You have to really have an understanding, not just to have the data, but an understanding of what the data is and how you can use it best to make decisions. And so if you can kind of share your experience and how you have built a learning ecosystem in today's environment with all the challenges that learning leaders are faced with.
All right. I would probably structure it this way, right? In my view, the four broad challenges that a lot of us are facing when it comes to designing learning ecosystems, right, is fundamentally the modern world today needs a different breed of talent. And when I say it needs a different breed of talent, gone are those days where you needed multiple unistack engineers to deploy a medium complexity digital project, right? Most modern digital projects need you to have more than one skill. People who have adjacent skills, people who are a front-end engineer but could also do some amount of DevOps, some amount of back-end engineering, some amount of UI UX. I think people like those are gold test. So the first challenge is, how do you build an ecosystem that actually enables people to become multi-stack engineers and not encourage them to stay unistack specialists, right? Second, today, most businesses do not need technologists giving them technology solutions. Businesses need the technologists who work with them to understand business problems, apply the technology that they know, and provide them solutions to business problems, right? In simple words, a lot of business owners or the business leaders don't really want to understand the underlying technology, but they're only interested in understanding how technology is going to help them solve a problem. So as technologists, as engineers, having this knowledge, which we call contextual knowledge, applying that to a business problem and providing solutions to customers, putting that kind of a mindset in people, right? Learning ecosystems today have to foster people thinking like that kind of mindset in people. And fundamentally, concepts like agile DevOps are not really a luxury anymore. They're more a need. They're the basic mandate of how most businesses operate, right? And finally, organizations themselves are actually restructuring themselves by the day, right? The whole concept of teams in an organization is getting archaic. Today, organizations in a lot of places, I would like to call them as being structured as clans and tribes. People of similar interest groups spread across different teams. People of similar skill sets spread across different teams. Well, that would be your tribes, right? So how do you break the traditional organizational constraints of teams or organization structures called teams and bring people from these clans and tribes to work together to solve business problems? A lot of organizations are moving towards taking steps towards breaking this kind of an organizational silos. So in essence, learning ecosystems today need to fundamentally overcome some or all of these challenges for them to be considered extremely critical to business growth, right? And beyond all of this, at a slightly higher level, I think we are dealing with a workforce that is used to what I call hyper-personalization in their everyday lives. And you open Facebook, you open Amazon, there is intelligence built in to understand what you really like and show that to you, nudge you to buy that. Most learning ecosystems are not there yet at that level of hyper-personalization. This combined with the attention span of today's world, right? I like to call all of us, including me, operating in a state called continuous partial attention. When I spoke about this to somebody at my office, somebody slightly senior, they said, we used to call this attention deficit disorder in my young days. But then today, the average attention span of a user is about 8 seconds, is what they say. So how do you package learning content in such small nuggets? So I think a lot of work has been going in towards identifying solutions that will kind of address these problems and put learnings from those into building learning ecosystems, which we've kind of taken ahead and done parts of that even in TCS.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So now we're down to 8 seconds. I thought it was 10 minutes. That's so sad.
Clearly my attention span is lesser than.
That makes me worried. So I really don't have to say much because you're not going to remember and you're really not listening. Oh my. Yeah, it is. It's hard. It's hard to create great content and to be, creative and innovative and, just in time and meaningful. I think this gives another level of insecurity to learning professionals more so than ever before. I feel that, HR or learning has always tried to justify or build the ROI for the business so that they could make sure that they're justified. Now it's even more challenging, though, if they use data in the right way, it can be, it's instrumental to them, for them to be able to do their jobs, to gain buy-in, to gain, budget or, attain budget and resources. So, can you also provide some examples of best practices that you've seen to be successful?
Sure. See, I think I would like to call upon 3 instances of where and how we've done this, right? Initially, I spoke about building an ecosystem that kind of caters to people or caters to delivering content in small nuggets. We built a platform called Fresco Play internally, which is like our experience layer to multiple learning ecosystems that we have. We have a number of content partners, content providers, number of learning platforms on top of our own LMS that we run here in TCS, right? But what we fundamentally thought was we needed to build a friction-free experience for people. And I say friction-free, as simple as not having to log in multiple times to, into different platforms to learn. So in some sense, when we built Fresco Play, that's something like, that delivers learning cards and stuff. You keep swiping right to learn. And the learning cards actually provide you with content, multimedia content. Like if there's a YouTube video, it's right there. If there's a faculty, running a webinar, it's right there. If there's content that needs to be curated from 15 different learning content providers, it's all curated into one place, into an AI-driven learning journey for you. The platform is gamified. The platform is persuasive. It provides you points. It provides you contests. The platform has a bot that kind of goes ahead and nudges you if you don't learn. A bunch of these things, right? That we put into building this platform called Fresco Play. And the first year that we built this, we started it as a small experiment. We wanted to build about 100,000 digital competencies in the first 1 year in our employees, right? End of first 1 year, we built 160,000. So in some sense, we were surprised ourselves because that is the first time a learning platform had such organic uptake. So when we went back to check what we had done right, we clearly knew we had done something right, but we wanted to understand what we had done right. So we went and did a lot of number crunching, right? One of the places where analytics really helped us was, we found out that the peak usage time for this platform was between 9 and 10 in the night. So we were very curious. We went back and asked a lot of people, what is it that you do between 9 and 10 in the night, right? On a learning platform. A lot of users said they use this for 10, 15 minutes before they go to sleep.
Is that a good thing?
I know, that put a new question in our minds. Is this app helping people sleep or is it helping them learn? So we went and did further number crunching to realize that people with such consistent usage patterns of 15, 20 minutes a day learned a lot more than the ones who are trying to burn the midnight oil, learning 10 hours over a month and just not coming back to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that as a learning and put that back into the platform to start nudging people to spend that 15 minutes every day so that collectively people can learn more. So the bot today, we use AI, we use data-driven techniques to identify people who are not spending that and to nudge them, right? But with this, how do we nudge people to learn what is relevant to both them and the company? So we do a lot of analytics to match where there is a demand for the company to what could be a reasonable adjacent skill for the specific skill sets that a user has, and kind of put out AI-driven role-based learning journeys for them. So today in the platform, if you go in, right, you can literally say, I want to be a data scientist. That's my aspiration. The platform, based on what you know, what kind of data science skills there is a demand in the company, can in real time put together an AI-driven learning journey for you, which will say, hey, here are 15 courses that you need to complete. This is going to take you probably about 50 hours. Go through this step by step, and it's so simple for you. You don't have to install anything. The coding sandboxes are here. Everything in one click delivered to them that they can access from any platform. I think this is one big, I would say, an achievement, I'd say in some sense, that we're very proud of, where we've used data to drive not just learning, but a lot of behavior. Right? Similarly, there is a lot of analytics that go into estimating the demand that we need as a company. Right? 3 months, 6 months out, based on what customers are needing, what are the skills that are going to be in demand in the company? Right? We call that a skip quarter talent planning exercise and things like that. But there's a lot of statistical methods and techniques that we put into our analytics engine that helps us predict this and design learning interventions so that we are able to kind of bridge the gap and make sure we are always having a surplus of talent than for a dearth of talent. The other thing that I wanted to also call out is what we call mid-level reskilling, right? Traditionally, we see people between 10 and 20 years, by virtue of having done something over a period of time, find it more difficult to unlearn, relearn. So our analytics engine, based on the demand, kind of gives us a view of what are market relevant skills in today's world. What percentage of our mid-level folks do not have such market relevant skills? How many of them have been continuously learning? How many of them have not been continuously learning, right? And then design interventions to upskill, reskill a lot of our mid-level folks to have at least one market relevant skill and certification. And see, by doing all of this, I think for us, the key here is our reliance on talent from outside TCS, right? The market talent for growth is actually considerably reduced. A considerable percentage of all growth requirements in TCS are actually staffed by people who are cross-skilled internally.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the peak of pandemic, when talent availability from the market was a challenge, or in the middle of the Great Resignation, where people were just leaving, and then hiring new talent was more expensive. We had a very, very robust pool. Given the size of our company, we had a robust fungible talent pool, which we could actually use analytics, cross deploy, and utilize them for our growth requirements.
That's interesting, and like what you mentioned about the you saw a high percentage of people leveraging the content or using it to learn about 15 minutes before, around 9 and 10. So I think there's something that's said, though, that when your brain calms down and right before you go into something neurological where you do review information or read that, and then you go into your sleep, I think that there's been research that shows how that helps kind of how you learn or how that sticks with you. So it's interesting that you're finding people to where they're leveraging the information and when.
Yes. In fact, outside of this, very interesting that you brought this point up, right? I was reading something a few weeks back, and I read the brain can also actually associate geopositioning with learning and executing. So there is a research that actually says, let's say, for example, a school student is used to sitting on a certain corner of the classroom and learning math every day, and then conditioned to write math exams in that corner. The person is 30% more likely to perform better at learning math or writing a math exam in the same place than some other place in the same classroom, apparently. So over a period of time, the brain can even condition itself to, with geopositions and associate those patterns with learning and efficiency of learning and execution of what you've learned. It's very interesting when you start reading into some of these brain-based studies on learning and the connection.
I might have to question then. Our 9-year-old daughter's in 4th grade, and since I think kindergarten, they mix their seats up, and so they mix them around at different tables with different classmates next to them. I don't remember doing that when I was young. I just remember having one chair the entire until I think middle school or high school, right? And then you started changing classrooms. But if that's the case, I'm wondering if that's impacting their learning capabilities at an early age.
If I was a kid and I knew this research existed, I'd probably at least use that as an excuse for not scoring good grades in school.
That's true. And so let's so we you've given some good examples and thinking around the ecosystem of learning and how you're utilizing data. So how do you measure the success and impact? There's so much data, right? So how does someone make sense of all of it?
I think the proof of the pudding for us is what we call training-led deployment, right? Again, there are different ways to measure, and I'm going to be talking about what we do for ourselves. So I was talking about people who've been cross-skilled and deployed into newer roles, right? Growth requirements. So as a company, we've always believed in looking at talent internally when it comes to growth, career paths, providing accelerated career paths and all of that, we first look within, then look outside, right? If you actually look at TCS as a company, you would find a number of people who are in the top exec, including the chairman of the Tata Group or the CEO of TCS. They would have all been people who would have joined as trainees and graduated to the roles that they are in the exec leadership team today. Most of them. And you would find that across different levels in the company. You'd be surprised at the number of people who would have joined as trainees and grown up the ranks. So this kind of a strong mechanism for continuous learning and purpose-led talent development, right? I think that is the key to us that at the base of a company, what we have as a principle. So with that, we measure ourselves a lot on what percentage of all requirements we are able to fulfill through cross-skilling. Right? So through the use of all of this data and all of that, on an average, we are able to staff about 30 to 40% of all growth requirements in a year through just internally cross-skilled people. Right? To us, that is the primary proof of the pudding, whether this is working or not, what needs to be done better. But also using a lot of this data, how we nudge this is there is a trace of what everybody learns, what we call associate data currency in the system. We nudge a lot of our employees to build their brand in the company through our internal systems. So when there is an open requirement, let's say for data science, right? The resource management teams go and look at who are the people available with really high scores in data science. And when I say score, we again have a gamified measure called the T factor. That's like, you can look at it at the breadth and length of your learning skills. The horizontal line talks about the different skills that you have an exposure to. And the vertical lines is the depth in each one of those skills. Together, this computes a number called T factor, which is used to identify these people to provide them with appropriate career growth. Right? So this internal fulfillment is a key measure for us. Next is the associate satisfaction index, right? In our annual surveys and things like that. How satisfied are our employees? We use learning as a very, very serious lever of engagement. There is high amount of learning that goes into engaging employees. On an average, a TCSer learns about 120 hours every calendar year, right? Organically. So a lot of this is tied back to our performance, our annual surveys and stuff, where we are able to see a direct impact in how satisfied and engaged an employee feels and how much learning is contributing to that. The third lever here is customer satisfaction. While we put in so much effort to train our people and all of that, right? Is it actually impacting our customers? What do the customers view our employees as? Are they looking at us as real growth and transformation experts? How have they helped them grow their businesses? That becomes the third lever. And finally, the last lever that we also look at is attrition. Right? How has learning helped us curb attrition? What is the impact of learning on reduction of attrition? How are our high talent people, right? People who are high performers and high learners. How is their attrition? Is that able to positively impact attrition for TCS, reduce attrition for TCS? And eventually, if yes, how can we identify such target groups and create more customized interventions for them? So for example, we have something called the Elevate framework, which kind of not just incentivizes people for work performance, but also for learning performance. This is one of a kind in the industry. Where you can actually get steep rewards just by learning, along with having a decent work performance. So a bunch of these things have been designed, put back, and it's like a constant feedback cycle loop for us, right? These 3-4 parameters become the base of what we judge with, and then we keep experimenting to make them better, come out with more customized things for a specific set of people and so on.
You keep adapting and adjusting and kind of recalibrating as you need. And I think that's what's so I think that is necessary because there is a lot that's changing, and some things we can control, some things we can't control. However, I like that as one of your levers is that you're looking at, how does this affect our customers? And also, the other factors, attrition and performance. But at the end of the day, your business needs to perform. So you can do all these wonderful things, but if it's not impacting the business, then, we need to figure out why and make sure that it is. And so as we wrap up, Vivek, can you leave us with what you consider are critical for your future success? You mentioned a lot, but if we can kind of sum it up in, a few key critical items that you feel that is paramount to your success in sharing with our audience.
Sure. I think the first thing that I would say is making this more persuasive, right? Not making this a force-driven process. Making this persuasive, make people consume this. For example, in our learning platforms, there is no real mandate on what you need to learn. There are courses on how to play guitar that are available to you. You want to learn that, learn that. But then we found a data-driven way to nudge people towards taking them to where we want them to learn. There are dashboards. There is a view of your quantified self, where you compare with your peers, how close you are to where the company needs you, how many market relevant skills that you have. A bunch of these things very subtly given for your view to just persuade you to learn more in the right direction, right? So I don't know if you've seen the bot in the learning app called Duolingo. There's actually a bot that tells the first day, hey, you know what? You haven't learned in a day, come back and learn. On the second day, the bot says, hey, you haven't learned in 2 days. A couple of your friends are learning. You're getting left behind. And on the third day, the bot actually says, hey, you know what? I've nudged you for 2 days. You seem to be ignoring me. I am not going to nudge you anymore. And actually, Duolingo says that more people return back to learning after day 3 and not day 1 and 2. So clearly, rightly driven nudges persuade people to come back and learn and continue where they left. There is a lot of scope for gamification in all of this, right? For example, our learning platforms throw out festival offers based on your usage patterns. It could say, hey, Thanksgiving holidays, instead of waiting for the next year, complete the learning courses that are pending right now and earn 5x credits instead of 1. We thought such things may have little to no effect, but surprisingly there was a 300% uptake in the number of people completing learning courses in just that 1 week in a holiday season. So we realized they probably do work and made that a consistent feature in our platforms today, right? So the use of analytics and persuasion to drive user behavior, I think that's extremely critical for user success in the future. But apart from this, the two things that I would say are mandatory is to keep evolving and improvising. I don't think anything that we do today might actually stay relevant for more than a year and a half at tops. Right? So you might have to keep building newer iterations of what you've built, make it more enthusing for people to come back and keep learning. The best of the learning content is actually available open source today, right? So the focus can just be on content curation, creating learning experiences for people and not really content creation. I don't think many of us can create learning content better than a lot of YouTubers out there. So curating the right content, making it better, making it more consumable, making the experience amazing. I think that's the second most important thing. And finally, none of this can be done alone just by a learning team or a technology team or a platform team. There needs to be buy-in from the users. There need to be buy-in from the business sponsors. So it's about building allies along the way. How can you take people? How can we make it a win-win proposition for different people? And that ties back to me saying experience. How can we make this a pleasurable experience for every persona of stakeholder that is involved in this entire chain, right? From your learning professionals to your users, to your business users, and articulate the value back to them using data. I think these three could actually prove to be game changers in the future if somebody really nails this right. I think that's my personal view on this, on this whole designing learning ecosystems and using use of data to do that.
Thank you. You've given us a lot to think about. And I hope everyone that is listening in is learning from Vivek. He has a lot of good points that he's made and examples. And again, congratulations on all of your award wins. And I look forward to you joining us next year at our conference. And all of you, please also, we look forward for you to join us. And the dates are January 31st, February 1st and 2nd in Palm Beach at the Hilton. Great time of the year to be in Florida. And we're going to have lots of great examples from Vivek and other amazing organizations and speakers. So there's going to be a full 3 days of networking, workshops, panel discussions, keynote presentations. So there's a lot. And again, Vivek, thank you for sharing today. It was very thoughtful and quite interesting. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I think I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this podcast with you. And I really look forward to being in Florida for more reasons than just one. I think that's going to be a good break for me from -20 to +20 degrees over a period of 3 days. So I'm already looking forward to breaking my cold winter and being there in warm Florida in Jan and Feb.
Maybe you'll be able to get some cricket in.
Perfect. Of course. Any day.
All right. Well, take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Rachel. Bye-bye.